Specifically, of course, focusing on disability. We do know that tomorrow, that is 12th August, is the International Youth Day. And the theme for this year is Green Skills for Youth Towards a Sustainable World. But I want us to have this conversation today on disability, especially among the youth and some of the challenges they're facing. And in studio, I'm joined by Winnie Adoyo, who is the founder and CEO of Inclusion Champions Society. Just right after her, there is Teresa Mukui, also from the Inclusion Champions Society, and is a member. And finally, after her, there is Collins Ouma. He is rather also from the Inclusion Champions Society. He's also a member, but he's also deaf. And we'll be having that conversation with all of them and see that some of the challenges that they do have. But I want us to just start off with Winnie. Winnie, you are the founder of the Inclusion Champions Society. Tell us a bit more about that society.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm glad that we are discussing this just a day to the International Youth Day, which will be celebrated tomorrow. My name, as you've rightfully put it, my name is Winnie Adoyo, and I'm founder and CEO of Inclusion Champions Society, a society organization by, for, and with people with disability who are championing for their inclusion in the society with very specific interest areas. We know that family plays a key role in everybody's life. Right. So we're very keen on having the family to create an inclusive environment. And when you leave your family and go out there, we interact with everybody else in the school, in the corporate, in the worship places, in the health sector. And those are the areas where we also try to encourage people to have mindset change, to have the right attitude that is willing and ready to include the persons with disability, and especially the youths at this stage.
Right. Teresa, what about you? What's your role in the society?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. As you've heard, my name is Teresa Mukui, and I'm a member of Inclusion Champions Society. Yes.
Okay. Collins Ouma, he's also part of the Inclusion Champions Society. He's deaf, but we do have someone who is translating for him. Maybe, Collins, just tell us a bit more about yourself and your journey.
Okay, my name is Collins Ouma. I have a sign name, Asi Adechi. I'm a member of Inclusion Champions Society. I'm deaf, and also a person living with disability. Yes.
Right, Winnie, just coming off from Collins, tell us some of the challenges that you think people living with disability, especially young people, are facing in the country.
All right. There are quite a number of challenges, which are some of them are institutional challenges, some of them are individual challenges. But I don't know if you might allow me not to speak for a youth. I personally don't consider myself a person with disability, but I'm a youth.
Yes.
So most of the time, one of the agenda that at ICS we are really pushing is to give the power back to the people with disability. So I don't know if it's okay for the youths amongst us with disability, just to say something briefly.
Okay, then let's move it to Teresa then on that side. If you have a disability, tell us about it and some of the challenges that you face, especially when it comes to the society.
Okay, thank you once again. I'm a person living with disability. I have a physical disability. I acquired it at 3 years due to some health issues. So as a person with a disability, we have different challenges, but sometimes we take them positively. Like for instance, there's the issue of accessibility. Some buildings are not accessible to us.
Right.
Yeah. The other issue is about employment. Whenever you go to seek for employment, the employer might see the disability and not the person. So we usually have that challenge. But personally, I thank my employer. He didn't see the disability. He saw my abilities. Yeah, the other challenge is about finding love is not easy as a person with disability.
Right.
And I'm speaking this from my own experience. Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
So whenever you want to find love, some people think that maybe you are not supposed to be loved. You're just supposed to stay like that without a lover.
Do you think there's a stigma when it comes to someone with disability?
Yeah.
Yeah.
when it comes to, maybe you can agree with your partner, we are going to get married.
Right.
But when you go to the parents, some take it negatively. They start thinking, how will this lady cope with marriage? Issues with getting a baby, they think it's not possible.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, we need love, just
Right.
like any other person. Yeah.
We'll talk about the stigma in just a bit, but I want to come to Collins now. One of the things that Teresa has raised, of course, is employment opportunities, and the fact that sometimes the employers will not take you in because of the disability. Is this something that you face as someone who's deaf?
Yes. We face a lot of challenges. For example, if I do my CV and I go to present it to an employer or a boss, he thinks I'm coming to borrow for something to eat or some money, so he gives you 200 and then let you go. But I wanted to look for a job opportunity, but I'm wondering, you are a disabled person, and this is not accessible friendly, so the bosses out there, they feel like we are not possible, we are not capable, and then communication barrier is another challenge. At the entrance, probably a watchman sees you, but he doesn't allow you to access the building because of a communication barrier.
Right, that's quite a challenge. I mean, Winnie, for someone who's advocating for people and comes to inclusion, especially young people and disability, coming from the case of Teresa and Collins there, what do you do, or how do you advise them when it comes to employment opportunities?
Yeah, so part of the target groups that you're working with are the corporates. We are reaching out to corporate spaces with very simple but tailor-made ideas and activities to fit into your program that you're already doing. Because as you've heard it from Teresa and Collins, they have the potential, they have the willingness, and they're ready for workspaces. But people look at the disability first. So what we do with the corporate spaces, we encourage people to partner with us so that we can do for you something called disability mainstreaming. There's a lot of knowledge gap in these people. Even when an employer sends you away the way they've done to Collins and Teresa before, sometimes they genuinely don't understand how you are going to cope in that workspace. So this is where Inclusion Champions comes in to give you disability etiquette training for the staff, for the leaders of the organization, and also to work with you on short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals on how you can create a very inclusive, disability-friendly space that will allow you to have persons with disability and people without disability work together, and at the end of the day still achieve your goal as an organization, and as well as you promote this inclusion of youth with disability. They are both mentioned, I don't know if Collins mentioned, but the youths with disability, their challenges cut across.
Right.
The youths without disability have their fair share of challenges. When it comes to a youth with disability, the challenge is normally doubled and sometimes tripled, because other than the society already thinking that just because you're a youth, you are not able to focus well on your job, you're not able to be honest, you're not able to deliver. So when they add on top of being a youth with disability, now they even feel, how will you communicate with us here? How are you going to access our washrooms and our spaces? So the challenge becomes harder, even finding work and everything. So for me, number one, it's to champion for attitudinal change in our society, because we need a society to be ready for the persons with disability. The persons with disability themselves, the youths amongst us, we also challenge them, because some of them also, they sit back because of a lot of pressure they face, the barriers. Some of them decide to sit back and think, nobody wants me, so I'm not good enough. But then people like Teresa here and Collins, they're out here, they're trying to still do their best. You don't stop applying because somebody told you we're not going to take you. So they keep applying for jobs, they keep talking to each other, and we challenge each other positively.
I mean, interesting. Teresa, coming to you, you're an inclusion champion member. What do you do in that situation where you know, of course, there's a bit of stigma when it comes to someone with disability, whether it's employment, whether it's love that you're talking about? How do you try to tell someone, hey, listen, this is not really the case, I can be able to do this? What do you do in that case?
Well, for me, I'm always positive. I always encourage myself to be positive. So I don't give up easily. So if I seek for an opportunity and I don't get it, I keep trying and trying and trying. Yeah, positive vibes.
Positive vibes. Okay, so but then how do you do it? Do you actually just try to insist and tell someone, listen, hey, I can be able to do this, and you keep it
Well,
going?
it depends on the situation. If it is too much for me, I just leave it and go to maybe to another place and seek for the opportunity. Yeah.
Collins, coming to you, in terms of a positive outlook, have you tried to get into that space and it has become actually successful with the challenge that you have as a deaf person?
Come again?
In terms of, you know, going for a job opportunity, for instance, you're trying to be positive, you're trying to tell this person, I can be able to do this job. Have you tried that and it actually has become successful now that you get that employment opportunity?
Yes. Back then, I really tried. Then I got a job with MMS in Nairobi, Metropolitan Service. I got that opportunity, but later the contract ended, and now I'm thinking of hoping to get another opportunity that will be coming soon.
Right. Interesting. Winnie, let's just come back to you as someone who's a champion again for inclusion. How do you think the media, especially, you know, portrays people as people living with disabilities?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, media is a very powerful tool. They can push any agenda they decide to push today. So like what we're discussing today, I think by virtue of even having this kind of talks, this goes a long way, because anybody listening in, as I mentioned before, some people genuinely have no idea how to handle people with disability. So if the media can push this agenda, can be intentional about pushing this agenda, like today we're discussing the persons with disability. So definitely something like having a sign language interpreter, which we are on board, that would be already inclusive. And then if there are events that are happening, like we're celebrating International Youth Day. Yesterday there was an event on the same, somewhere in Kwea. Today there's an event happening right now as we're speaking. There's an event going on. And tomorrow there'll be an event going on. So if the media decide to focus on the inclusion of youths with disability in all these spaces, it comes to employment, we can even highlight, because there are people who are already making the steps. There are people who are already employing 1% of their staff. So if the media can highlight these people and just encourage others that it's actually possible, you can do it. There are also some families who are going extreme to just ensure they create a very conducive environment. I know of a good number of families, especially in Kibera and Langata, who have gone out of their way. They've come to taken their time to learn sign language, so that when they have their children who are deaf at home, they're able to communicate. They don't just, the children don't just see people's lips moving and they have no idea what we're talking about. Because most of the time, these children with disability, they find a home in school. But when schools are closed and they come back home, it's normally very traumatizing, because you go to a place where people don't understand you. You are part of the family, but you're not part of them, because they've never have a conversation with you. You have your issues, you're becoming an adolescent girl, you want to just talk to a mom somewhere, to a sister, but there's no way you're going to have this conversation. So I feel like the media really has a great opportunity, and I appreciate, like KTN, what they've been doing. I mean, among other medias, just having once in a while focusing on such events, that really makes a lot of sense. So I would just encourage the media to keep doing that, get more experts on board, just to tell us what we can do. And at Inclusion Champions, we are anchored on one story of the starfish story. Starfish story is a very common thing, where we believe that that young boy who was picking starfish at the seashore and throwing them back into the water, there were thousands and millions of other starfish. Of course, he cannot finish all of them, but just that one that you've touched, that one piece of information that today we've gotten out there for somebody who didn't know, it has made an impact.
It's made an impact, and it's crucial. I mean, Teresa, coming to you, someone who's living with, of course, disability, how are you raising awareness yourself? Are you involved in any project, any initiative?
Thank you. Well, I work with an organization that deals with disabled children. So through that organization, we create a lot of awareness to the community in Kibera. So we've seen lots of improvement, because you see there's a time whenever a parent had a disabled child, they used to hide them. But with this center that I work with, we create that information through advocacy, whereby we go door to door, creating awareness about different type of disability and telling them that there is a place where they can bring their kids. So I believe that has really brought a lot of changes, especially to the Kibera community.
Right.
Yes.
Interesting. Collins, coming to you now, also in terms of just raising awareness and advocacy, is there something you're doing with the community to try to just let them know that deaf people can do what everybody else can do, you know?
Yes. Sometimes I go and teach people sign language in different schools, in primary school, because children learning sign language is very crucial for their growth and to interact with deaf children also. Probably in future, they'll become employers and employ the deaf children. So, and create awareness, and not only all hearing people can take all the opportunities for them. So that is the work that I'm doing currently.
Right. Interesting. Winnie, coming back to you, of course, now I want us to talk about the role of technology, accessing technology. Has it been a challenge as someone who's advocating for people living with disability? Is there like a training center or, you know, an initiative that has been put in place to make them aware of some of, you know, how things are changing technologically?
Yeah, so technology has actually helped to connect people. And like, for instance, me and you, we can use, like when we have our phones, smartphones, we can easily text, send message, or do voice call.
Yeah.
Sometimes because of our education system, sometimes you'll find somebody like a deaf person, they've gone through an education system, but the kind of English that they come out using, it is called signed English. So when they use signed English and you and me, we're using exact English, sometimes there's a big disconnect.
Right.
But this person, they might be mistaken to not knowing what they do. When they use technology phone, they're able to do video call, where you just do video and you sign everything and you communicate very effectively. But then when you're asked to put the same in writing, it becomes a challenge. So part of it, technology has been very helpful to improve communication. And as well, we know when it comes to like accessing information online, there's a lot of benefiting information online. But sometimes you try to log in, for example, the people who are the blind people, they try to access it, and sometimes if the website or the computer is not able to have like screen reader, then I want to access this information, but I'm not supported as a person with disability. So that becomes a challenge. So in the technology space as well, there's still a lot of unexploited potential that people can just venture into to make information more accessible, so that when we're planning for our International Youth Day, actually was asking amongst ourselves, most of the members, we're having the first Ability Youth Summit for these youth, and most of them have never been able to attend the other regular youth celebration that have happened over the years. So, and sometimes even having that information, so we're talking about green skills for the youth. What's about that? How does it relate with me? How can I be part? Because I also want to feel like I am important, I can contribute to the society. But how? They get information. Some of them will get this information in October when the event already happened in August. So with the technology, I think it is good, but again, sometimes accessing, there are those who still are not able to access even phones and stuff. But for those who already have phones, from the space of the stakeholders, we can as well do, it's not too much to us to make just the website and your spaces to be also accessible.
I want to talk to now Collins. In terms of also technology, what are some of the challenges that you face as someone who's deaf when it comes to technology? What are the challenges? What are the good and the bad also?
Okay, we have some positive challenges and negative challenges, and also the experiences. We get to acquire information on Facebook, on WhatsApp, and other social media platforms. But on the negative side, sometimes we get them very late. Some people, probably on TV, when they're announcing an advert or something, they don't put a sign language interpreter, or they use Kiswahili, because deaf people doesn't understand Kiswahili. Hearing can get the information very early, but for the deaf people, they get it very late. Yes, some others doesn't have smartphones. They use the old ones. The education level also plays a key role. Some reading is a challenge to them, and probably understanding a perfect English is hard for them. But with aid of an interpreter, it becomes easy.
Yeah, right. Very interesting. Teresa, to you now. Just trying to connect now what he said on education and technology. Are you facing any challenges when it comes to that?
Well, as for me, the challenge might be I might get the information, or I might be invited for an event like the one we are waiting for the youth.
Yeah.
But getting there now is the problem. Yeah, transport issues. It's really a challenge. Yeah.
It's not very friendly.
Yeah, sure.
It's not very friendly. I want to talk to you now, Winnie, on, there's the Ability Youth Summit. It's the first edition happening. So away from what's happening tomorrow, which is officially the International Day of the Youth, you're hosting on the 24th, the first edition for the Ability Youth Summit. Tell us about that.
That's right. Thank you once again. Yeah, so Ability Youth Summit happening for the first time. It has been birthed out of the many challenges that we have experienced amongst ourselves. Not accessibility. You might have a very nice event organized, but then my friend Teresa here will get to the venue and realize he can't go in, and then you have to go back home. Or sometimes somebody like Collins will go all the way because they've heard this is happening. They get there and all of a sudden there's no interpreter, and we are not sure you are supposed to be part of this. So it's out of that need, because the youth with disability have wanted to be part of these celebrations. So it's on that background that Inclusion Champion Society are organizing for the first Ability Youth Summit. Ability Youth Summit happening on the 24th of August.
Yeah.
That will be on Thursday. And basically what we are looking into is to join in this year's theme of the green skills. We'll actually be having a tree planting. We want to first of all start by, we'll have a procession in town on that day with more than 300 youths with disability who are a representative from all the spaces in Nairobi. This is for Nairobi County. And so we'll have a procession also to just create awareness to the public. We'll have flyers, informative flyers that we'll give out to people. Once we get to the museum, we'll be having people, experts, coming to talk about drug. Because the youth with disability, just like other youths, they struggle with drugs. They struggle with reproductive health issues. They struggle with mental issues. Right now, there's a lot of pressure. And if the other youths are having it hard, the youth with disability are even having it tougher. So now we are going to have experts to just come and talk about that. The legal space. There's a lot of opportunity, including even other people who can support you. Like we have government have funds for youth with disability through different programs that you can do, but this opportunity is not there. So we want to, as much as possible, to avail this information. If I want to register a company, what am I supposed to do? Because the National Council for Persons with Disability, the different people who are already our partners, they have some product, the government have product, the private organization, but this information is lacking. So we just want this youth to come together. As we mark this year, we want as much as possible. They have questions that they've been wanting to ask. We'll have legal experts on the ground who will be able to respond to issues that are related specifically to youth with disability.
Okay, interesting. Final questions to Teresa and Collins, but let me start with you, Teresa. What do you think the government should do, or what policies should be put in place to make sure that people with disabilities are included in everything?
Awareness. creation of awareness, especially to the society, will play a big role. Yes.
Right. What about Collins? As someone who, of course, who's deaf, what are the things do you think the government should do, policies they should put in place to make sure that you're included in everything that's, of course, happening in the world?
I think the government must try to implement and put on a sign language interpretation, because in our constitution it says sign language is a third language of Kenya, but implementation has been a problem. It has been ignored. So the deaf people can access information through sign language interpretation in many spaces.
Right, right. Thank you for that. Of course, that's a very interesting conversation. That's why we're wrapping it up. Of course, today we're having that conversation, preamble to tomorrow being the International Youth